All right, welcome back to the Q Source discussion guide for Northeast Wake. And we're joined today by the man, the myth, the legend, Spit Valve, Jeff Kutch. Say hi, Jeff.
Hello, Peck.
Yeah, good to see everybody. So now we're back in Q Source chapter 2. It's F2 Foundation Language. It's a short chapter, but I think that as Jeff and I were talking, the gist of the chapter is each community's got its own language, and language is often adjusted and changed to help the leaders be effective, to be able to communicate effectively. And we know in our F3 community, we have lots of specific language. We have our own vernacular. We have our own lexicon. We call things very different things, sometimes to the detriment of the workout, but oftentimes it makes leading it efficient and effective. And so I just want to pose some questions to Spit Valve, let him riff on some of these, and these will be the questions that we want you to wrestle with at your Q source tables. So Spit Valve, I just love to get your take. Is customized language necessary?
Right. Is it necessary? Is it just convenient that maybe speeds the conversation or the activity along a little bit? Or is it, do you actually have to have it? And I was mentioning to you earlier the events of last weekend when I was playing at a Korean church, an all Korean church, 150 Koreans and this white guy. And I was helping their choir out. Amazing choir, first Korean Baptist on Ray Road. And their maestro didn't speak any English. Their piano player spoke very little English, and we were having trouble. But the language of music, whether it's crescendo, decrescendo, retard, or the body language of music, she came over, we were having trouble starting together. She came over, sat next to me, and without saying a word, we were both able to sort of mimic how she was going to cue me to come in for a solo. And boom, we had it in 3 seconds, didn't say a word. And without that kind of specialized language, I don't know how it would have been a train wreck. So I know there's probably places where, could we say push up instead of merkin? Could we say, hey, you're going to run out and do 100, 200, or 300, and you're going to do this and add to your partner? Or we can just say, hey, do a Dora. There's certainly times where we could be long-winded. There's certainly times where it's very helpful to be short-winded. Be interesting to see what kind of ideas the Packs have on that from their lives.
Yeah, agreed. Love it. All right, so here's your next set of questions. It's a double-edged sword, or two sides of the same coin. And the question is, does culture have an effect on language? In the same respect, does language have an effect on culture?
Yeah, I was definitely thinking about the first one, how culture can change the language, whether it's talking to your kids. We all know they're using a whole new kind of, I don't want to sound like the old guy, but we're all the old guy. Words that I have to ask them, what are you talking about? And if you try to use it, they just say, bruh, and roll their eyes and tell you to go away, dad. But another example from this past Christmas, I played at several different churches. I played at a little country church in Zebulon. I played at a old, more conservative, large church in Raleigh. And then I played at Cross Assembly. That's where B&E goes and a couple other folks. And I played some of the performances for my kids, and they're go to a more traditional church. And I played the Cross Assembly church where we played basically a rock concert. It was, Hans Zimmer-esque, epic, smoke machines, thunderous. And I thought they were going to laugh at it. They're like, Dad, when do we get to go to this church? This is awesome. And that language, the way the pastors dress, the way they are a little bit more casual, that language definitely speaks more to certain audiences than others. So I think the culture does have a strong impact. And then, there's folks who want to, do you change to meet the culture? If you're not watering down your message and the message is the same, just the way you enunciate it, is that okay? Is that not okay? And I know that's a battle that, churches and other organizations struggle with all the time. How loosey-goosey are we going to be? How strict are we going to be? And then language changing the culture. It'd be interesting to see what they have to say, the converse of what we were just talking about.
That's right. I would guess in your home, same as mine, my kids' language is already changing the culture of my home.
right?
As much as I would wish my culture was changing their language, it seems the other way around. You hear my wife and I starting to use their terms. I mean, we're saying bruh, too. It's funny to hear my wife talk to my son that way. So clearly his language is changing her culture. And so that leads perfectly into the last question. I mean, I think we can all agree, and Dred's making the point, that specific language to a group can provide efficiency and effectiveness to a leader. But let me ask you, Spit Valve, can this specific language go too far?
Yes. If you get into, in my line, IT, if you get into acronym salad and you are talking to folks who maybe aren't as technical, maybe they're on the sales side or billing, or they're new to the organization, and especially if folks are afraid to raise their hand and say, "Hey, I didn't understand that. Can you, I'm in my line. I'm not afraid to say, "Hey, pretend I'm dumb." Don't pretend. I am dumb. What? Tell me what you just meant, because acronym salad can be really exclusive or excluding, where I got to go spend 15 minutes looking up the acronyms because I don't know what you're talking about. If someone showed up on Monday morning at a Goji and the first thing someone said was, "Let's do a door with Merkins and 8-point man makers," and this is a brand new guy and everyone just takes off running, he's going to feel definitely excluded. So the leaders definitely have to see when it's time to use language and maybe when it's time to use the normal language.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the perfect way to end the discussion. I think Spit Valve's given you plenty of things to talk about. So I hope that this short conversation that we had makes your conversation table richer this week. And I hope to see you at your next Q Source.